want to also cover something that is not being discussed by the Ayanna Pressley, AOC, Jen Psaki liberals that are freaking out about the affirmative action case being struck down, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I tweeted this a few days ago because I saw a lot of liberal takes on this issue, and the whole thing, I remember the whole affirmative action thing happened, and my reaction was kind of like, meh, to be honest. No, and I didn't comment on it for the last few days, for like the first day or two it happened, because I'm like, because I explained here in this tweet, and this tweet did over 1,000, we had live views, and there was a lot of talk around this tweet where I said I never benefited from affirmative. I never, and that's true, never ever benefited from affirmative action. Like, affirmative action has been a thing my entire life, and I never once thought, thank God, fucking affirmative action really built me out. Never once. But meanwhile, the reason I'm bringing this up, because liberals are pretending this is the black issue. This is the black issue, and they pretend now this is their gaslighting moment, their virtue signaling moment, pretend that they're for the working class. So, and I'll just bring up basic, because I was thinking about this for a few days. All right, how really should I feel about this? Because obviously I don't feel strongly about that. So why don't I feel strong about affirmative action? Because racial income inequality has got worse since affirmative action. And this is how liberals kind of dismantle a lot of conservatives about this. Because if you look at the numbers in terms of higher education, like, we don't even have an advantage. It's just a bunch of mediocre white people bitching that they didn't get into college. There's no statistical advantage that we got from affirmative action, and that's shown by the numbers. So why should we be sad that this is gone? And I'm not bringing this up for no reason, because I'm not the only person that feels this way. Because there were a lot of white leftists that was upset at me for my takes or whatever, because they wouldn't tell a black man how to feel about Democratic policy.
This is where we go.
Like, how dare you, Nick, speak about your experiences as a black man? What are you, red, brown? You shut the fuck up and fall in line.
Nick, your brain is out of steam. It's kind of run out of steam, man.
Now I'm gonna try to speak. I'm not trying to make this a long topic, but.
No. Let me comment here, because it's like with a lot of things in the United States. We're trying to pretend this is still not a slave state; it's just known by a different name. We're all slaves. We're all sort of working in sort of a slave mentality, or a slave system, I should say. So, affirmative action was simply a mirage that white people who wanted to feel good about America go, Look at that water in the desert. That, you get what I'm saying? A mirage. It's completely a mirage, because it was easy to get around this affirmative action thing. But what does this affirmative action ruling, doesn't it only apply to higher education? I don't even think this applies to employment. This applies to higher education only. So we're talking about the bourgeoisie black class? We're supposed to be upset about? Absolutely. Is that serious?
CJ, you read my mind, brother, because this is what I was saying.
Ridiculous.
And I can see the benefit of there being a ticket to the bourgeoisie for the working class, right? But people feel like this is the policy that liberate black people, for us just to get other black capitalists and oligarchs. That is not a liberating policy. And that's why I'm saying in my tweet here, I say, am I wrong for being remotely upset? Because I'm literally asking the community here, like, because I'm going through these. I'm trying to figure out how I feel about this.
Emotions,
I ask myself a serious question. I'm like, am I wrong here? Because it hasn't helped me. It hasn't helped our community as a whole when it comes to racial income inequality that's got worse since affirmative action. And I said, this seems like, and this is how I always felt about it, it seems like a very liberal solution to the massive problems we feel.
Of course.
And I'll be 100% fucking honest with you guys. And this is going to scare some people off. And this is what I say in my follow-up tweet. I'm not really in for integration anymore. Like, we need to find a home for determination. We need to build our
me, Keaton, and Kit, we're gonna step away from it.
We're gonna sign off.
There's a certain point where we need to build our shit. We need to build our shit. Like, how long are we gonna beg this society to accept us? Like, how pathetic is that? I'm beyond this shit.
So what I'm saying,
no, we need to build. Look, and I'm not even saying something that's out of cup. Because if you look at the Asian community, that's how they do. They live in their community, they study in their community, they support their businesses, and if you fuck with them, they fuck with you. I'm not advocating a separation of races. If you fuck with us, we fuck with you. Look at the gentleman we have on this panel.
Yeah, not forced. That's what I was going to say. Not forced integration. We don't want forced integration. Like, then if you don't want to be around us, then go somewhere else. I get that. Yeah, it's like we got to stop begging for people to like us. It's not a matter of you wanting to like us or dislike us. It's like if you don't, just like with anybody, like another person who's black. I don't like you. You go over there. I stay over here. It's the same thing. Like you know, it's just. I get what you're saying, like this forced integration where we have to do this and all of that. It seems like a failed attempt. And it was just like with anything in capitalism. Why would we think affirmative action really was doing something? Anything that's meant to help people, capitalism finds a way to co-opt it or suppress it. So why would affirmative action be any different than anything than the DSA, when the DSA used to be a slightly different organization than it is now? Then Bernie Sanders brought this influx of liberals who now was able to label themselves as social democrats, you know. But go ahead, I'll pass it back to the panel before we switch.
Well, this is exactly the kind of policy that liberals would implement to quote unquote atone for centuries of injustice that they have perpetrated, right? It's a technocratic, bureaucratic, neoliberal screw job. But yeah, send us your essay and your grades and we'll hire a bunch of people to analyze this, and okay, tie goes to the black kid and gets the white kid or the Asian kid. This is how they quote unquote help people. I have heard many times in my life people argue against reparations for the descendants of African slaves, citing affirmative action. Well, affirmative action is the reparation, right? We're making up for slavery by giving them a leg up, you know, when it comes to a Harvard application. No. You don't owe the descendants of African slaves preferential admission policy to Harvard. You owe them fucking money, and you don't want to give it to them. And affirmative action is a way for them to avoid giving it to them. It's the same story. It doesn't apply just to this issue, right? It applies everywhere. That's what means-tested healthcare is all about. That's what Medicaid is, right? You know, well, we're going to make it easier for certain people in certain states, and they fill out this form and blah, blah, blah. This is all of a piece. And so this is just one more example of how their idea of countering injustice really just creates a web of opportunities for themselves, because you need bureaucrats to oversee this, you need admissions departments and HR departments, and this is that. It's all a giant screw job, and I think affirmative action is, at its core, just another part of that.
Well, yeah, it's they'd rather have you focusing on what happens when you get to college rather than to focus on why you would need the help in the first place. By the time you're talking about the person applying to college, so much damage has been done before that by the failing public schools, by failed neighborhoods, by crime-ridden environments. It's too late at that point, really. It's a way of distracting from everything that leads up to that moment. I was actually, your tweet there, Nick, got me in an argument with somebody. I was arguing with them about.
I created discourse with that. There was a lot of discourse around that tweet.
So somebody I know works in a corporate environment was talking about how all these DEI people were getting fired. And I said, good. They weren't accomplishing anything. It was a distraction. It was something the corporations were using as a placebo and to avoid lawsuits. And she said to me, well, no, because they weren't able to follow through. I was like, what do you mean follow through? She said, actually diversify the hiring. I said, exactly. Exactly. They're there specifically to make people feel like they're doing something, but they never had any intention of hiring people. So you get rid of these people. Good. Now start actually having a conversation about how to hire a more diverse staff at these companies instead of just dragging everybody into a room and getting everybody to yell at everybody. That's exactly what they want you doing. So you think something got accomplished. It was a placebo.
So while a bunch of white leftists was freaking out over this, and by the way, there was a lot of feedback I got in the black community. If you look at the retweets, likes, there's a lot of people in the black Twitter that was liking and sharing this because I'm speaking my experience as a black man. And if you look at my tweets, I didn't even like harshly speak out against affirmative action. I was just kind of like, man,
right.
Man, is this something that we really should be upset about? That was kind of my reaction. Like, if you look at this tweet, I never actually say affirmative action is ass. I'm like, it didn't help me. And it's a very liberal, reformative policy that obviously, if you look objectively, did not help us. Like, and I'm not alone in this. So while you have white leftists like the Vanguard and many others that's melting down because I, as a black man, share my experience, this is the reality of the situation, and this shows how these people are just Democrats. Because these same people say we can't support defund the police because defund the police is unpopular. We can't support third parties because not enough people support third parties. Meanwhile, they support affirmative action even though it's not unpopular. Why? Because they got message from the Democratic Party too. So the Democratic Party don't support defund the police, so they're not going to do it because it's unpopular. They get their messaging from the Democratic Party. Meanwhile, I am an independent thinker, a black man, and they cannot fucking stand that. Yeah. Which is why people were upset because I share my point of view, which is not considered fucking unpopular or unreasonable among the black community, as shown here. Because if you look at how people talk about this issue, they make this. They assume that 100% of the black community is on board with this. Oh my God, Nick, how dare you bring this up? Are you betraying black people? No, according to this is very mixed. Yes, and this is the poll of those that approve affirmative action, essentially. And black people obviously lead the power with 47%. So that's half that says we support. Only half of black people say they support affirmative action. Now, if you look at the not sure tab, that's kind of where I'm at. As I laid out to you, I'm like, nah. I'm like, eh. Right. Meanwhile, the people who disapprove, 30%, 29%. That's 3 out of 10 black people. That's a lot, guys. Meanwhile, if you look at liberal media, this is most white progressives don't even know this. Like when you see the Vanguard react to my comment, they don't even know that 3 out of 10 black people disapprove of affirmative action. They're not at my position where I'm kind of like, they like fuck affirmative action. That's 3 out of 10 black people. And when you combine that, when you combine my position with the position of black people saying fuck affirmative action, half of black people like, when it comes to affirmative action. Meanwhile, white liberals are pretending this is the black issue. You guys notice that? You guys see the disconnect?
No.
And this is why I'm brave enough to talk about this. Cause I don't care about being accepted by the Democratic Party. And you have a ton of people virtual signaling, and they like, oh, I gotta be careful about this. Cause I don't want to piss off Democratic viewers. I'm just gonna tell you my fucking position as a black man. And I'm gonna show you guys why Democrats are actually so full of shit on this. This is my only story tonight. Because they know this. You think Democrats don't know this shit, son? Look at this. And so as people are upset at me for sparking conversation, look at this. Why Democrats aren't campaigning on affirmative action.
Say it ain't so.
So you're all the virtual signalers out there. But when they go back to their districts, they're like, we ain't about to talk about this shit. We're trying to get that white suburban vote.
Right.
I wonder if the Vanguard will talk about this. Hey, Vanguard, you think the Democratic Party's out of steam? I hope they're not out of steam, Vanguard.
I mean, when on occasion I have to go through the root canal of watching that fucking show because we're covering something that they talked about.
Oh God!
It's just like Beavis and Butthead does MSNBC. Like I never understand. Like why don't you just watch MSNBC? Like why are you going to watch a no budget dumber version?
And I don't watch the show obviously because it's unbearable. It's unbearable.
I don't know.
You guys have told me that they had criticisms of my affirmative action take.
Well, I was trying to catch up on I was trying to catch up on the Anna thing because the Anna thing is really hot right now. But I didn't want to watch.
I'm just watching the original video because I can't watch those guys.
But I didn't want the original video is 2 hours and 40 minutes. I'm like, all right, let me get the condensed take through them. Yeah. And then they said that, Nick, this is what they said about you guys. They said that you tweeted out against affirmative action and forced integration. And they said because you're cultivating a white supremacist audience.
Yeah. Oh, so all of RBN are white
in the chat I don't know if you have something to say about that. White supremacist audience.
Oh yeah,
wow.
Those black radicals are real popular.
That's ridiculous at face value, and that's and that elicits a reaction.
No, it's funny because Russell and I were thinking, we wanted to corner that white supremacist audience market, and we thought, who can we partner up with to sort of tap into that white supremacist audience? Oh, I know, Revolutionary Blackout Network. Surely there are a bunch of white supremacists in their audience. Now. Maybe we could get in on that sweet white supremacist audience.
It's a brilliant plan because it's the last place anyone would look for them.
Exactly. I mean, what an idiot.
You know what?
Because it's obviously ridiculous at face value, right? Like it's elicited a laugh, and that's why Vanguard sub count has literally been the same for a year and a half now, because they have no credibility. Now let's look at the claim at face value. We are a channel that cultivates white supremacist audience. So I want you to know they say that because this is COPE. We started our channel when they was at 20,000 subscribers. They are at the same number they was when we started, and we surpassed the Vanguard. And now, in order to justify and cope with that, they said the only reason why people like RBN because he got a right-wing audience. That's their cope because they lost the left. They only got Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome liberals who watch their show. Now they think we are cultivating a white supremacist audience. Let me ask you guys a question: who had Dr. Cornel West on their show? Who had a John Mabraka on their show? Who had Nkosi Mandela on the show? You know, the grandson of Nicholas Mandela? I had the grandson of Nicholas Mandela on the show. We are cultivating a white supremacist audience. You wanna know who they have on their show? Crystal Ball. That's their big guest. The millionaire
Marianne Williamson.
Marianne Williamson, another millionaire white woman. You wanna know another another big guest? They had Cal Kalinske, another millionaire white boy. We are the one cultivating a white supremacist audience. Even though we had John Mabraka on, we had Maury Kimberly on, we had Nkosi Mandela on, we just had Dr. Cornel West. Man, we are really cultivating a white supremacist audience, isn't it? We got right-wing DNA at RBN. We have Green Party activists coming on. We have Worker Strike Back coming on. We have a labor summit coming up next month. That's a really right-wing audience. We really developed
what it is, Nick, it's infantile because think now go with me with this logic, because what do little kids do if they're rejected? They don't go, oh, you know something about me. They go, oh, it's because you're fat. Oh, it's because you're this. Oh, it's because you're that. That is the culture of the professional managerial class. That's why they label everything right-wing, because it can't be you're right and I'm to the right of you.
Right.
You have to be labeled something bad because of your opinion being different. And that's all this reflects, because it can't be our audience is growing because we have better takes. That can't be it, because the fragile professional managerial class, that's something they can't take.
Absolutely.
Well, it's also
Roman's gonna be on. Sorry, I'll pass right back to you, Russell. But Roman's gonna be on. I see a comment, so I'll highlight this. Roman's gonna be on the ground during the UPS strike. We're gonna have a lot of labor on next month. Right-wing DNA, right-wing ideology from RBN. Look at these lies that's easily disputable. Is why Vanguard, your channel is dead. That's why when they go after us, I'm like, man, we have the dumbest enemies. Like, thank God our enemies are the Vanguard.
No.
Thank God. Their channel is dead because they don't have no integrity. Their channel seen them lie all the time. And when you lose the trust of your viewers, you stop growing. You lose credibility. Meanwhile, RBN grows every fucking month, consistently every goddamn month, because more people find us truthful. Vanguard has been at 26.8K for a year and a half because not a goddamn person find them credible.
You should quote Jimmy Dore.
I'm gonna get Russell in. I'll cut Russell off and I'll get you in, kid. And I'll read the last headline. I'll pass to you, CJ. But go ahead, Russell, and then kid.
Well, you can feel palpably the times are changing. Like the whole take that they represent, and that the confluence of people who they congregate with, their take is very, 2017, 2018, and you can feel the movement moving on. I would describe what RBN represents, HardLens, Dissidence, some other channels. We're kind of the third wave. We're angrier, we're grittier, we're more pissed off, we're less PMC, we're not coming out of the kinds of backgrounds that a lot of that first and second wave came out of. We tend to actually be workers who have actually worked Like we're coming from a very different perspective. It's a lot more authentic, and the people are a lot angrier and a lot more disaffected now than they were in 2018. But these people built their careers on that political moment, and they don't want to leave that political moment. Too many of their relationships, too much of their money depends on staying with those kinds of politics. So most of them are refusing to evolve. You know, the Vanguard are just a dingleberry that got caught on their ass. You know, but the rest of these people, like, that's what it is, man. Their whole brand is built around having politics that are permanently frozen around 2018, and they don't want to evolve.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, again, to quote Jimmy Dore, thank you, God, for giving me stupid enemies. All these people,
I love it.
I know, but the thing is, it also shows that even when the time comes for them to truly step up and try and call for change, implement something, do something for workers, cover events, call out these politicians, they won't do it. They have the same amount of courage as AOC or any of the other Congressional Progressive Caucus members have in Washington, D.C. They're not consistent. They're afraid, as again, Russell pointed out, they're afraid of losing their connections. And already, like, their big moment, for example, Vanguard, their big moment was going to Kyle and Crystal's wedding.
That's the highlight of their career.
Yeah, that's the highlight. That's the only highlight. Save for the fact when Aaron Mate owned them on their own show.
Now, real quick, you guys remember the Vanguard? They've been, as I was mentioning, they've been stuck at 26K because no one likes them. But you guys know how they got that? They got that like overnight, because I don't know if you guys remember during Forced to Vote.
It was the Chomsky thing, right?
They had Noam Chomsky on, and their interview went mega viral. I mean, Jimmy Dore helped boosted, like, every independent channel reacted to that interview. And because of that interview, talking about this one interview, that one interview put them thousands and thousands of subscribers. Their channel was made overnight because of Forced to Vote. Then Jimmy Dore came on. Their channel was made overnight. And then after their channel was made, dead immediately. Because people was like, oh, the Noam Chomsky interview, that was fire. And after that, they're like, man, this channel is fucking garbage. Meanwhile, we never had that, like, one moment that gave us thousands of subscribers. It's been a consistent growth ever since we started 2 years ago, because our channel was suppressed, but when people see us, they're like, man, these people are for real. Subscribe. These people are for real. Subscribe. Meanwhile, Vanguard got a rush of subscribers, and then they started to repel people because people like, these people suck. That Noam Chomsky shit was a one-hit wonder, and that's why I think it's funny. That's why they coping, and that's why they got to say shit like Jimmy Dore and RBN and do this, and other people have white supremacist right-wing audience, even though we are Marxist-Leninists to the left of them. They are literally spineless social democrats, but they pretend we are to the right because that's their coping mechanism to make up for the fact that we're building a larger coalition than them. More people vibe with our message than them. That's the reality. But anyway, I passed
that show sucks so bad. They have had everything you could get to boost your subscribers over the last few months. They were in the Marianne wedding. They were in the picture. They just got name dropped in, what was it, a Politico article?
Yeah, Politico.
With a link. They've been doing guest appearances on the leftist mafia, and their fucking subscribers still don't budge. Because they suck. Damn. If that's the kind of channel you want, there are people in that space who are not going to give you a fucking headache. If that's the kind of thing you like, there are people who are better at it. People get one look at that channel, they're like, "What the fuck is this?"
That's a funny point, Russell, because they had
easy on them. You're beating the crap out of them, man.
The funny thing is, that's a great point, Russell.
It's
because whenever you have these big guests on, you can potentially get some of their audience on, because whenever we have Aaron Mate on, some Aaron Mate people,
of course, that's how it goes.
Jimmy Dore, we have them on, their follows. Come on. The Vanguard had how many big guests? They had Kyle Kalinske on. Kyle Kalinske has 1 million subscribers. They have Kyle Kalinske on, and not one person who liked Kyle Kalinske was like, we
exactly. How much do you have to suck?
Fuck that shit.
Yeah, to not even get like a few hundred, you gotta suck.